By the end of this video, you're gonna know if you should be switching from this to this. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you the one disadvantage I think of this stuff. First of all, welcome to my channel, Cycling in Southern California, where I show you all the great places that I ride here in Southern California. The real advantage of this stuff is that it's sold everywhere and it's extremely cheap. But why you should use wax? The reason why is because it keeps your chain extremely clean, as well as your rear cogs. Your entire drivetrain just seems to run smoother and stays clean. Also, when you're using wax, or in particular the Squirt wax, which we're talking about today, it actually feels smoother. Now, I know that they say that you're gonna be saving about 5 or 6 watts compared to oil, and the reality is sometimes I think to myself, well, how can anybody feel that? But when you actually put wax on your chain, it's so strange. You can actually feel a difference. It just feels smoother. Here's the story behind how I started using this Squirt chain wax. And I'm 50 years old right now. I have been involved in cycling basically all my life, since I was about 11 years old when I started in BMX. And I think I sucked at BMX, but one of the weird things in my brain that I did even when I was 11 years old was I thought that a cleaner chain, a cleaner bike went faster. So I was always looking for an advantage, you know? So I would literally clean my chain and oil my chain, make sure everything was purring like a kitten right before a bike race. And so I've been cleaning chains all my life, and I've been using oil, of course, because that's what you're supposed to use. Now, 2 years ago, by watching and reading, I decided to actually change to wax to see if it was a difference. And so, by the way, I'm an Amazon affiliate. I will put a link down below for this stuff. I do get a small commission for it, but look this stuff up, look at reviews, investigate it, investigate the price. You can just use the link down below if you want. So I started using this stuff and it was like, wow, this is amazing. I remember riding up a hill thinking to myself, I've got to be crazy, because I'm very in tune with my body. I was riding up a hill on my road bike and I just could swear that I felt good that day. And I felt those 5 or 6 watts. So, I mean, you think to yourself, how is that even possible? But it felt better. It felt smoother. The really great thing about the Squirt chain wax is that your chain is just always clean. If you've ever seen one of those Cat 5 tattoos on the side of your calf, you've seen that. You don't get that anymore. The other situation is if you've ever had a flat tire, particularly in the back, and had to change your tire and move the chain, before you know it, it's just black on your hands and you could wipe it off. You just can't get that stuff off. Then it gets on your bar tape and then you rub your eyes and it's just a whole mess. So with the wax, your chain is just always crazy flippin' clean. Then if you're traveling to a destination, then you've got the chain touching your car, or if you put it on the inside of your car, oh man, it's just, the oil is just actually bad. And I never realized it for my entire life. I just thought it was part of cycling. How it feels, the watts. I'm gonna tell you what this is like. This is an analogy. Imagine you had a mountain bike, and the mountain bike, it was an old-fashioned mountain bike. It didn't have shocks. It had cantilever brakes, and you were still using tubes in the tire. That is what this is like. Now, mountain biking is fun with that type of bike. You can have a great time. You never know the difference. But as soon as you get a dual suspension mountain bike with disc brakes, tubeless tires, then you go, oh my goodness, that's a difference. That is literally the difference between using chain oil and using wax. But here's one problem. what I would do is when you get a new chain, usually what I would do is just put the chain on. It had the factory grease on, and some people said you needed to remove it. Some people said it doesn't matter. So I would just put the chain on and just run it for 150, 200 miles and then start with the cleaning. And so I would wipe down, after a ride, I would wipe down the chain with a cloth. And what would happen is after about a month or 600 miles of cycling, I would literally degrease the chain. I would use Simple Green, and I'll put a link down below of the really inexpensive chain cleaner that I would use. I would degrease the chain, literally use one of those tools. This is the tool. So I would put the chain through here, put a bunch of Simple Green in it, and I would run the chain through multiple times, totally degrease it, dry the chain, and clean it, and then put oil on. That's what I used to do. So about once a month, I would degrease the chain, totally clean it, and my chains would last about 3,500 miles. So that was the procedure. Now with the Squirt chain wax, what you do first is when you get a new chain, you degrease it right away, and you really want to clean it as perfectly as you can, as if you were going to clean this thing only one time in its entire life. And that's what the company actually recommends, is degrease the chain in the beginning. Then what you do, the first application, you'll apply this to each roller pretty thick. And the difference between oil and the Squirt wax is the oil goes on like oil. The Squirt wax, you need to shake it up, and I would make sure and do it when it's hot outside. It goes on almost like a toothpaste, like a very liquidy toothpaste, so it's pretty thick. So you want to get it in there, rub it in the rollers, and then circulate the chain. And what'll happen is you need to wait for a couple hours, let it soak into the chain, and then reapply it, and then you're good to go for about 150 miles. And so then what you do is you will actually wipe down the chain. I wipe down the chain about once a week, and then I reapply the wax. So whereas with the oil, I'm reapplying oil once a week, with the wax, I'm reapplying wax once a week. But the difference is I don't actually have to degrease the chain once a month. So that's a benefit, but it seems like a problem when you first get the chain, because you have to degrease it in the beginning. Now there is an alternative to using Squirt wax, and that's to actually take the chain off, cook it inside a crock pot. And there's a guy in Australia who has some excellent videos and how to clean the chain. He cleans it with gasoline, and he cleans it with different products, and then he comes up with his own chain wax. Basically it's paraffin, and supposedly that's even better. But for me, I just find that it just seems like so much easier to use the Squirt wax for my personality, only because it's just as simple as applying the wax just as if you would apply the oil. I never take the chain off or anything like that, and so it just seems a little easier for me, even though probably it may afford you some more watts, maybe, but to me the work is so much easier for the Squirt wax. So literally what I do is after every ride, I'll just use a towel, wipe down the chain. It takes 3 seconds to do. And then once a week, or about every 150 miles or so, I'll reapply wax, and you're done. So if you have tried Squirt chain wax, let me know what your opinion is down below in the comments. But now, what do I think is the bad thing about Squirt wax? The truth is, this is not cheap. Again, there's a link down below. You could see what you can get for the price, but this is not inexpensive like this is. But to me, a couple dollars extra for the bottle that is used just like the oil, to me, I notice a difference, and for my type of riding, it sure makes a difference. I'm going to take my finger and rub this here, and you can see there just is not a lot of, let's get underneath there, just is not a lot of dirt. So this is how clean the chain and drivetrain will stay